Welcome back to another video. I'm watching Could the Death Angels Survive Skull Island? Let's
The introduction of speedy, agile, and most importantly, deadly aliens joining the likes of the very well-known Xenomorphs from the Alien franchise, and these aliens are known as the Death Angels, leaving nothing but destruction in their path and littering the streets with death. Being that this is a Godzilla channel, I wondered what would happen if the small but extremely deadly Death Angels travel to the MonsterVerse version of Skull Island, littered with smaller creatures such as the Death Jackals and Spirit Tigers, to the likes of our very own Kong and fan-favorite Kamazots. Would the Death Angels, who survived everything the military threw at them and much more, survive the horrors of this island? Before we dive into our hypothetical situation, let's first go over what these Death Angels are. The Death Angels' origin is extremely interesting. Their home planet, unlike ours, lacked the existence of a star, making their environment completely pitch black. As a result, the Death Angels, as we see, evolved to use echolocation and have an incredible sense of hearing, as the use for eyes was completely null and void. Suddenly, their home planet violently exploded, creating a multitude of fragments. On these fragments, they survived in the vacuum of space, which is around negative 455 degrees Fahrenheit. What makes this extremely impressive is that we don't know how far away this planet was, meaning they could have been traveling for thousands of years until they crash-landed on Earth. As we see, the fragments enter the Earth's upper atmosphere and burn up, traveling at speeds nearing 17,500 miles per hour. Once they crash-landed, we see them immediately causing havoc, and to many people's surprise, they escaped unscathed from slamming into Earth. The Death Angels' armor is basically impenetrable, surviving their own planet's explosion, outer space, and entry into the atmosphere, let alone slamming into Earth. However, they're not totally invincible, as they're vulnerable when their armored plates open up to reveal the fleshy inside, which encases their most useful tool, their ears. The Death Angels are extremely powerful as well, slamming right through metal and even the likes of the US military's very own Humvees. We also know that one of the larger fragments which struck Mexico landed with the force of an atomic bomb, which generates around 17 kilotons of TNT, and this is on the lower end of the spectrum, which will generate temperatures in the several millions of degrees, which they of course survived without breaking a sweat. Their strength and durability isn't the only thing they have to offer. These things are perfect evolutionary killing machines and actually had a hierarchy system implying high levels of intelligence. In A Quiet Place Day 1, we are introduced to this Queen Angel that calls the others to eat. What are they eating exactly? Well, a fungus from their planet survived. This fungus grows from the organic material they kill, as the Death Angels don't eat their prey. Rather, wait for the fungus to grow to eat it. And of course, we have to touch upon their speed. They're able to easily catch up with the cars, and some sources even say they can run up to 300 miles per hour. Pairing this with their agility to scale virtually everything, it's no wonder that the military failed to stop them, throwing everything they had at them. However, they're not all perfect, having two weaknesses, those being high-frequency sounds and water. Due to their over-reliance on hearing, high-frequency sounds can overwhelm their hearing sensors, leaving their armor plates open and thus leaving them exposed. With their incredible durability, they cannot swim at all. Their armor is super dense, and as a result, they instantly sink to the bottom. These things are extremely deadly, being virtually invincible, incredibly strong, extremely fast, and very smart, but they aren't perfect. Now that we know what we're dealing with, how will the MonsterVerse Skull Island fare? The Death Angels crash land onto the island, drawing the attention of none other than the meanest and most vicious creatures on Skull Island, the Skullcrawlers. Curious as to what the noise was, thinking it's another meal they can score, their investigation quickly turns into almost instantaneous death. As we've seen, the only armored areas of the Skullcrawlers are their armored heads. Their fleshy bodies are even able to be sliced by katanas, and these Death Angels pack a lot more than just the sharpness of a katana. Several of the Death Angels swarm out of the hole dug deep into the ground, and the Skullcrawlers that ventured go down in seconds. Anything that makes a noise is torn apart by these Death Angels. Peaceful creatures such as the Skir Buffalo are killed without hesitation, being ripped right through by the Death Angels. With all this killing on the island, it's bound to attract none other than Kong, the guardian of the island. Kong would see death all around him. Even his rivals, the Skullcrawlers, seeing how effortlessly they were decimated by this new threat, he needs to find out what's causing this. Unlucky for our ape, he's a large fella, and his footsteps are very loud. The noise attracts the Death Angels, These creatures, foreign to this island, crawl onto his legs and scale his massive body. To him, they seem like how we might view ants, but imagine they were attached with a steak knife as a weapon. Kong, at the time, was still quite young and was cut into by helicopter blades, and make no mistake, these death angels are far more deadly than mere blades. Despite being the king of the island, he gets torn apart. The dozens of death angels that scale his body dig deep into his flesh, revealing bone. Kong would try to roll on the ground to maybe get them off of him, but the couple that do get flung off are immediately brought back in. Their durability is far too much for anything this young Kong is capable of. Kong would unfortunately get torn apart by the death angels. Their speed, power, durability, and intelligence would allow them to actually make quick work of the island's king. Now, when it comes to adult Kong, that's a different story. While the death angels are extremely durable, Kong was able to crush the heaves, which took an entire planet's worth of gravity with no issue. So if adult Kong were to grab one of these death angels, they'd be squashed in an instant. The death of Kong would draw out none other than the big one, otherwise known as Ramorak. Not only noticing the mass death of the smaller skull crawlers, but the death of Kong, it actually gives him an opportunity to take over the island. Unlucky for Ramorak, the death angels would immediately swarm him. Just like with Kong and many other larger titans on the island, their size does not help them, as they're extremely loud. Ramorak's agility would maybe help it survive an extra couple of seconds. Realizing that smacking the angels full force into the side of the mountain does absolutely nothing, he'd attempt to retreat, only to be chased and executed by the death angels. Smaller animals such as the death jackals, spirit tigers, and the magma turtles would be killed to extinction on Skull Island, leaving the island almost a barren wasteland. Luckily enough, some of the creatures such as the Mire Squid, Kraken, Siren Jaw, Croc, and Giant Hawk would be able to survive. As we mentioned earlier, one of their main weaknesses is their inability to swim. The Mire Squid can actually kill some of them, drawing their attention by making sound and splashing in the water, and then grabbing any unsuspecting death angels that wander too close to its lake and pull them in. As a result, these intelligent killing machines would learn quickly to not go to the sound of water to avoid the creatures that inhabit it. Those who would adventure to the beaches would be pulled in by the Kraken. The Kraken, as we've seen in the Skull Island anime, is far from a benevolent titan, really just killing for no reason. However, if the Kraken dared to go on land, it would suffer the same fate Kong faced, having limbs torn in seconds and instantly retreating to the water. Our flying animals, such as the leaf wings, would be perfectly alright, merely observing and being able to fly away from the danger the angels present. The Giant Hawk, while it would have to eventually land, is smart enough to observe for itself and put the pieces together and understand that sound draws their attention. Very few of the death angels would die. Some would unfortunately fall into a river, others grabbed by the Mire Squid and Kraken and quickly drown. One of the main weaknesses of the death angels is their inability to swim, but what about their other weakness? High frequency sound. We're all very familiar with the titan who harnesses this power, and that is none other than Camazotz. Camazotz is a relatively smart titan and powerful as well, going blow for blow with a grown Kong in a one-on-one fight. Camazotz has one of the main means of killing these things, and that is its sonic roar. This sonic roar would do much more than disorient them. As their plates are opened up by the deafening sound, their inner flesh would be completely liquefied to mush, as the angels, once exposed, are even susceptible to gunfire and a mere swing from an axe. The death angels would rule the island for years, running it dry of any life at all. Anything that makes sound would die. Only then, when Ghidorah's call awakens Camazotz, will the death angels truly be in trouble. Camazotz, seeing the death and destruction caused by these things, would go out of its way to eradicate them, and it'd be quite easy. Camazotz would simply pass over the land, using its sonic roar, and merely being around Camazotz's scream
Skull Island does win,
bursting their eardrums if they aren't liquefied already, and destroying the brain. Despite Skull Island's various different deadly creatures, whether it's the skull crawlers or Kong, would find itself become a barren wasteland of death, with their only threat being Camazotz due to one of their only weakness being high-frequency sound. So let's go back to the main question and point of the video. How would the Death Angels fare on Skull Island? Well, they'd tear right through it, changing it from an island filled with multiple different horrors in life to an island filled with death, ruled by one creature, the Death Angels themselves. They would thrive until the arrival of Camazotz. Until then, this invasive species would live up to their movie performances, causing an apocalypse.
So technically, I was right, because I said the Death Angels until like the Camazotz come in. So yeah, bye guys, and peace, and I love you guys, and yeah, you won't see any more reaction videos today for this week, except for probably one maybe, but bye guys, and peace.